Welcome into Falcons fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for more Atlanta Falcons content. And last time I talked to you guys, we were previewing training camp. Now training camp, 4 or 5 practices have gone by. I just want to give my thoughts on everything I've seen. I went to training camp this past Tuesday, so I was able to see the team in person as well. So obviously I can give my insight from what I saw in person, but also what I've seen online through different reports that we've seen from different people, and just my overall perception of this team right now as they get ready for the first preseason game next week and then join practices the next week after that with the Tennessee Titans. So really appreciate you guys tuning back in for more Atlanta Falcons content. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe down below to the channel. Like the video, leave a comment down below about anything we discuss. Appreciate all the support you guys have given me over these last couple of seasons. So we're just heavily trying to keep this going. I've had some personal stuff going on recently, so that's why I haven't been uploading as much. But hopefully, as we get closer to the NFL season, you should be seeing me back to more 2-3 uploads a week and just continuing to grind from there. So, like I said, guys, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, I want to focus first on the defense with the Falcons before I talk about the offense, because I've heard it and then I saw it. And you even hear it from the players. I think Jeff Ulbrich could be one of the biggest addition this entire offseason for this team, because when the defensive players talk about him, you can see the excitement. You can feel the energy. You've seen in training camp reports, and I saw Tuesday, that defense flies around. You've heard that the defense wants to be more of an attacking style defense. And I think that's what we've seen. They've been attacking. They've been all over the field. And like I said, they have a lot of athleticism across the defensive line, and you see it in all aspects. I think that the biggest thing for me is, I've said this multiple times, Jeff Ulbrich has a plan. That's something I think Jimmy Lake didn't have. I think when you have a new defensive coordinator like you did last year with Jimmy Lake, when you're a player, obviously until you hit the games, you don't know if this defense isn't going to work or not. But you can start having some feelings like, I don't know, I'm not feeling this, whatever. I feel like this year you can tell the defensive players have a strong inkling that I think this is going to be really good for us, and I think we're going to be better than what people expect. Because it's easy to say the Falcons' defense is going to be bad because you didn't necessarily add a bunch of star players this offseason. There was a lot of youth, injected into this defense. And so with those guys, if they hit, the defense does have a high ceiling and could be good. But if they don't, you think there could be a very low ceiling, and they're one of the worst defenses in the league. And the last thing you saw was them being bad, so you're going to assume that they're going to be bad until seen otherwise. But I was talking to some people, and they were like, honestly, I think this defense might be able to carry a little bit to begin the season, because it's all about, with teams, is fit, scheme, and players. You got to have the players to fit the scheme, and then the defensive coordinator, the mastermind, to put them in the right position so then they could go make plays and then and be connected as a unit. And if you have that, that can lead to a lot of success on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's one thing that the Falcons had under Ryan Nielsen. They had a connectivity. That's why, even though they weren't the most talented defense, they, for the most part, played very well that year. And I think under Jimmy Lake, they were not connected, and that had a lot to do with Jimmy Lake, and you saw the defense kind of fall apart. And so I think under Nielsen, especially on the D-line, I think the impact will be felt. James Pierce Jr., let me tell you about James Pierce Jr. We've been hearing him a lot recently, making plays, would-be sacks. I believe in the latest practice, he had 2 would-be sacks on Kirk Cousins. He's primarily been in with the second unit, some reps with the first. You just can see the explosiveness. Seeing that in person was extremely impressive. Like, you can see the explosiveness from Pierce. He gives, and that's something I think what you call is juice. Falcons haven't had juice off the edge for a while. And James Pierce Jr. shows that juice. He really he has plays where he just flies off the line, and even if he doesn't get the sack, it definitely is one of those things in game where it would disrupt the play. It would throw the play's timing off because he's that disruptive. And that's why I think the Falcons loved him. He was their number 1 pass rusher because they thought Jalen Walker wouldn't be able to be available for him. And they were ready to get him. I said I see why draft boards had James Pierce Jr. as the best pass rusher in the draft before this past college football season. Like, you can see it. Now, obviously, again, And Jake Matthews is not a scrub. He's done this against Jake Matthews because the second team defense plays the first team offense and sometimes the second team offensive line. So when I was watching camp, he was playing as Jake Matthews. So the couple of sacks he almost had on Penix and Kirk, well, Kirk was the second team, but with Penix, it was with Matthews. And it's just really impressive. You just can see the disruptiveness. I mean, the teammates have talked very glowingly. Jesse Bates talked very glowingly with him. And, James Pierce just says, he just knows how to play. He plays aggressive, plays violent, which is what Jeff Ulbrich wants. And I think James Pierce Jr. literally is the type of player, literally that Jeff Ulbrich would want. And like I said, that's very important to acquire the players that a coach wants, especially a player of his archetype. So James Pierce Jr. has been very, very good in camp so far. Now, obviously, his running mate in the first round, Jalen Walker, has not been playing. We learned that he had a minor hamstring injury. Raheem Morris said that before practice. And, they're trying to just, ease him. With injuries in camp, the biggest thing you see teams try to do is they just you want them to ease their guys. You're just easing your guys. You're not trying to say, let's go balls to the wall because guy gets hurt even worse in the preseason. Now people are looking at you, how you manage your team, what are you doing, etc. Right? And some people already question Raheem's management skills at times. So, Jalen, even before that looked good in workouts, really hasn't practiced that much in camp, has done some individual workouts, and I think in the individual workouts he did, I think Raheem said he was going to be in full team individual workouts. He looked good. He looked healthy. But again, I get it. Trying to keep him healthy, no reason to rush it. And I think the Falcons' defensive line is in a point where they don't have to rush anything. Because this has also created opportunities for a guy who's very often forgotten in these conversations on the defensive line, especially in the edge group, Braylon Trice. Braylon Trice has actually looked good. Since Jalen hasn't been playing, he's been the second team rotated in defensive end with James. Braylon looks good. It looks like he's recovered really well from the injury from last year. And so he's a guy who we forget about, but I think the Falcons were really high on him when they drafted him out of Washington. And now they'll be able to see what he can do as well. He's a guy definitely you're going to be looking at very closely in the preseason games. And I think that's the biggest thing you want to see with guys like Jalen, James, Braylon. It's just how they play in real life snaps and just see if they can continue that moving forward. Rooks look really good. Rooks had a couple of practice sessions where he's blown up plays. Rook looks really good. Kareem, a guy who I think is Kareem Shaheed. I'm probably saying his name wrong. But a guy who kind of, came onto the team last year, played some games, has been kind of seen with first team at times, second team, third team. Guy I can tell the Falcons like. Laquel London just got off the, I believe it was inactive list. He bulked up to 330. Kadavia Street bulked up to 315. So clearly they've tried to address the size issue by asking some of the guys they have to just bulk up. And I think they think that they can still get the same type of player that they believe that they need, even at a bigger size. So, definitely some good stuff there. David Ayumana, obviously the leader of that defensive line, especially in the defensive tackle room. Morgan Fox, another leader who I think is going to be really beneficial. Apparently one of the best duos when they do have those linemen out there are a Morgan Fox, Rukaroro, down lineman unit, which, when I think about those two guys, I just think about energy, just a lot of energy. Those guys play with a ton of energy. And Rook is a very explosive player. And I think that's, again, they have guys on that D-line who can just blow plays up. They may not every play, but they just have the explosiveness. If you don't get off the snap well enough, if you have sloppy technique as an offensive line going against those guys, they can eat you alive. And I think Nate Ollie is really trying to coach that into the defensive line to be able to take advantage of potential opportunities and attack the ball. And so, realistically, defensive line, I know I spent almost first 10 minutes talking about them, but they really, I think they'll be better than what we think. Linebackers, I think it's been, Caden Ellis has been good. Divine Diablo has been, obviously first team guy. They're kind of doing more of a 3-4-5-2 thing. So it's going to be two linebacker sets. Your second best group is JD Bertrand and then Josh Wood, since Troy Anderson is on the PUP. Obviously, one storyline that we will follow is if Troy Anderson gets cut. That is a possibility of him not practicing right now. The Falcons may just cut their losses again if he can't get back on the field during the preseason. So that is something to look at. And then also be interesting to see if that means the Falcons would potentially want to go out and look for another linebacker potentially. Because I know the Falcons have been bringing in some players recently. I can't remember his first name, but I believe they brought a corner in the name, last name Henderson, played with the Jaguars and Colts from first round pick. I believe they also brought in Whitehead. I have these numbers. I remember the last names, guys. Let me see what I got here. Let's see if I got it on here. I might not, but they were bringing in some different players, and just trying to add depth to the team because they understand how important depth is in today's league. So I think linebacker is you kind of see what they're trying to do there. A lot of nickel probably you're going to see from the Falcons this year. Obviously, nickel battle has been the one that people pay attention to. Bowman and D. Alford have switched between first team and second team. One day it's Bowman with the first team. Another day it's D. Alford. I think that battle is going to go down to the wire. I think the Falcons honestly might end up, depending on how this preseason training camp goes, could end up being comfortable with both guys, which if that happens, that just means it's interchangeable. And then if they go dime, then they're probably both on the field. So I don't think that battle, it's clearly between those two because Clark Phillips has pretty much been with the third team, which could Clark Phillips be on the bubble? That's something we'll keep an eye on. But I think right now that battle's been pretty good between those two. And then safety, same thing with besides Jesse Bates. Watts will be first team sometimes. Fuller will be first team sometimes. So, they'll be swapping in between. You got a veteran, you got a young guy. Raheem's talked very glowingly of Xavier Watts and what he can do. And so, it feels like the trend is at some point Xavier Watts will start this season as the opposite safety to Jesse Bates. But I think at the same time, the Falcons are trying to make him work for it. And they're not just going to give that position away. I think that's one thing you've seen from the coaching staff is some people wonder why are some of these guys not running with the first team consistently. And it's just like I said, these guys are in battles and they're not just going to give them the job. They got to make them work for it. And so I think that's a good precedent to set on the defensive side. So the defense to me, I think could be better than what some people expect for sure. And I'm excited to really see them in full game mode. Jeff Ulbrich, let's see what this defense looks like. Because there is a lot of potential here that I've seen in camp and what I've seen through what other people have said. So I've been there as well. So let's go to the offensive side of the ball. So really big thing, how's Penix done? Well, Penix didn't throw his first interception until the 5th official practice of training camp. Really wasn't, from what I read in some notes, shout out to my guy, Adnan, wasn't great in the red zone this previous practice. When I saw him on Tuesday, he looked good. I really think we saw his mobility on Tuesday. Got out of pressure, able to scramble for about 15, 16 yards. There was another play in the red zone. They were doing red zone drills, just trying to score in the red zone. And I remember he scrambled out and then found Ray crossing the field, across his body for a touchdown. And that's something I think, again, you're going to probably see a lot more of Michael Penix. Again, I don't think he'll be running to necessarily become some dynamic running playmaker. But I think what you'll see from Penix this year is just using that to create some time, which, like I said, he is not a slow guy, and then be able to make plays off of that. So I think Penix has looked good through practice. I know there's still some things where, there's some erraticness at times with his throws, which, I think that's sometimes maybe just what you're going to get with a guy like Penix. Some quarterbacks have those flaws where they can be erratic at times. But for the most part, I feel good about Penix. I have no reason to not believe until he shows me not to believe, realistically. Kirk's been a professional. He's been taking all the second team reps, which, think about it. If you're on the second team, to be able to get thrown a ball from a guy who could be considered a starting quarterback in today's league, I think is a great experience for you because obviously Kirk knows he's working with those guys and he's helping those guys and pushing those guys to compete. And I think it's really benefited guys like a Chris Blair or David Stills and guys like that, because those are some names I've mentioned or I've heard are impressing, especially with the absence of Darnell Mooney. DJ Shark is another name who I think the Falcons legitimately think can make the team. I think they wanted to add him to add a receiver with some size and speed and see what he can do for them. So it's going to make the end of that receiver group very interesting. Like I said, Chris Blair has been considered consistent. Penix called him consistent the other day. David Stills is a name I've heard, if you remember him, from West Virginia, guy who's been pretty good. Nick Nash has made some plays here and there, not as much mention of him than the other two guys I just mentioned. But I mean, and in Casey Washington, for the most part, I keep hearing the same thing. Physically, he has it, but mentally, it's the mental with him. If the mental has to get better, the mental has to improve, the mental has to get more sharp. So, I think that, it'll be interesting to kind of see, especially with that group, because I mean, essentially, you're going to be trying to win a job with your quarterback probably being Easton Stick and Emory Jones. So, you're going to have these 3 games are going to be plenty of opportunity for those 4 receivers I just named to try and make the Falcons keep them, plus their value on special teams as well. That's a big part of this. I know a lot of people have assumed Jamal Agnew would make the team because of his return ability. Falcons may also feel like they have maybe a couple other people they could potentially put in that position, which then means if, say, another guy out of that receiver group does really well on special teams, presses the coaching staff, that could help them potentially get on the team instead of him. But we'll have to see how that continues to work. Drake London had one bad day of practice, obviously. D-Led was a guy who he tweeted kind of about how he struggled, but he bounced back on the practice I saw him at. He made a lot of big plays down the field to Drake London for Michael Penix that game. And the thing about that connection between 9 to 5, you can just see the connection. You can see the trust. You can see the chemistry. You can see that Michael Penix trusts Drake London. He's going to give London opportunities to go make plays. I'm not going to say he's going to say screw it balls, but he'll throw it up there if he feels like he can fit it. And Penix, with the type of arm talent he has, probably believes he can make any throw on the field. So I think Drake London definitely has the potential to have a big season because of that connection potentially they could have. And like I said, with the absence of Darnell Mooney, it's just giving people an opportunity to step up in their absence. I think the outside receiver you've heard is Cordell Hodge, obviously a guy who is not a scrub himself, even though he's not known for his receiving. And also, like I said, DJ Sharks played some outside as well. So receiving core, solid. Pitts, you heard a lot in the first few days of training camp. Penix was looking for him. Haven't heard as much recently. With Pitts, though, I think a lot of us are just going to wait for him to get on the field and kind of see how it looks. But he does look like he's slimmed down. He does look like he's trimmed down a little bit. I like where it looks like Pitts is right now. He's loose. He's having fun, which I think is important. I was talking to Dave Archer at camp, and he was saying it. He said that I think I was either him or Will McFadden, one of the two, told me, I think it's good for him to kind of just be loose. Because I think for him, in my opinion, I think him coming in here and acting like there's a lot of pressure isn't ideal for him in his situation. So if he comes in and he's playing like really well, and he's loose, I think that's actually more beneficial to the team. So I think that, that's really good, I think, for sure. They've done Pitts, obviously, at some wide receiver, and Charlie Warner on the field as well. So that's something I expect to see a lot in terms of the personnel this year. With them, offensive line, haven't really heard anything negative, to be honest with you, which is good. I mean, obviously, we have the fight between James Pierce and Matthew Bergeron, and they talked about it Tuesday, and they said, hey, it happened, high spirits, high energy, playing aggressive. It's all good. We talked it out. We're straight. Because I know that was a big deal when that fight happened. But not bad, really, which I think is a good thing, that we have not heard anything about our first team. Like I said, there's plays where the defensive line wins the day. That's part of camp. Somebody has to win the rep and somebody got to lose the rep. But I haven't heard like, oh man, offensive line is a huge concern from any spot. So that bodes pretty well, I would say, for the offensive side of the ball in regards to what they're doing. And like I said, the biggest thing is just seeing how they expand the offense. Because obviously, I think one thing they want to do going to the running backs now is that they want to really get Bijan more involved. There was a really good throw that was called back on a hold. Penix went outside, got Bijan on a swing, or not a swing, a wheel route down the field, touchdown Bijan. And I think that's how they think they can use Bijan. Kind of get him in that open space, get him one-on-one. Because the best thing you can do in that situation when you do, like, especially wheel routes, is that you hope that the safety or linebacker is coming down, so his momentum is coming here, and then Bijan's going the other direction, and Bijan's one of the fastest players in the game, so takes advantage of it, creates separation, and can make a play. I think that's something they definitely want to do. I wonder if they're going to try to also do more, maybe some screen games to try to also get him involved as well. I think it was interesting. I think this is definitely Will told me this. With Penix, they've done more just straight dropbacks and read. With Kirk, they've done a little bit more screens. I don't know if that's because, again, Tampa Bay also week 1 is a screen-heavy team. So maybe that's one reason why they're doing it. Because, again, the second team offense has been facing the first team defense. So they're just trying to give them that look of screens. But I wonder if they would use Bijan in that sake and try to get him in space that way. And Tyler Algiers also looked really good as well. So they've definitely been holding up their side of the bargain when it comes to what they've been doing on the offensive side of the ball. And overall, through camp, I think, like I said, some guys have some good days, some guys have some bad days. But overall, I mean, I think the Falcons have looked good. I think they've done some good things. I think that, oh yeah, last thing, kicker battle. Cool. The Falcons kicker battle. Hold on a second. Falcons. Yes, sir. Lenny. Youngway and Lenny. When I was there, I believe both of them went 4 or 5 kicking field goals. Both missed from like 54 and 55, like one each. And I mean, listen, I think when I've talked to people around camp, they were kind of like they still think it's Koo's job to lose, but Lenny seems to have the more live leg. I will say that. He seems to have the more explosive leg. Obviously, that doesn't mean he's the most accurate guy. But, every field goal, I feel like now the Falcons kicking preseason will be looked at. And people are going to be like, what? Who's kicking? Do they make it? Do they miss it? Especially if it's Lenny over Youngway. That could maybe start bringing up more noise about Youngway's position maybe being in doubt. So that's obviously an underrated battle of camp that I'll be looking at, continuing to move forward to. But overall, Falcons training camp, high energy, some good football, good vibes around the team. I'll be back out there again. My plan is to be back out there again this coming Tuesday. So if you want to go follow me on X at Brycey_2K, I actually posted a video just recapping that day of practice from Tuesday. If you want to check that out, see about doing that again this coming Tuesday. Like I said, try to keep up with the team, cover the team a little bit, and we'll just kind of go from there, man. So if you guys have any questions about anybody on the field, let me know down in the comments below. I'll be responsive. I'm trying to be more interactive with you guys. And if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, like I said, about anything. If you've participated, if you visited camp, what have you seen from them? Because there's a lot of interesting storylines with the Falcons, and it feels like, first preseason game, you'll get through that first test, and then joint practices is like the week that everybody's looking forward to with the Titans coming to town that week. So I think there's a lot of things here that I think the Falcons fans and just in general that you're looking forward to and seeing what happens. So really, really good time to be a Falcons fan and excited to see how this team continues to grow together. So we'll have to see. But I think it's about it for me, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll see you next time.